Hello, this is Michael Wojcik with a Rochester City Council update for October 17th, 2016. Actually got home. I'm not quite sure what to do. It was quite a bit earlier than I thought it would be. It's not even 11 o'clock right now, and I was figuring we'd be going till 2, 3 in the morning, but a big part of that is a number of items were continued, which is kind of how we get into these long meeting situations itself. Really two items that I'm going to talk on today. I guess maybe a couple more because I'll talk about the committee meeting. Sounds like we have enough support to get BPAC into the city, which is very good and very important for pedestrian bicycle safety in the city of Rochester. The only person who seems to really have an issue with it is Councilmember Hickey, so no surprise there, I guess. And additionally, Uber is on its way to coming to Rochester, and I think that this is one where the public outcry has had a little bit of effect because I can see there's some people who really don't want to enable Uber, but clearly the votes are there to let Uber come in and not do a bunch of gimmicks, try and make them less successful, not unlike we did to the food trucks. So I think it's going to be coming. The public hearing on Uber is going to be on November 7th. So you can come out and speak on that. I assure you that there'll be people looking to do protectionist measures for their businesses that will be there as well. But my intention is to bring Uber to the city of Rochester, at least do the first reading on an ordinance enabling them on November 7th, then you have to wait 25 days unless it's unanimous. So, but you know what? That means come New Year's Eve, we might have a new form of safe transportation to get everyone home, and that would be just fantastic for the community. In addition to that, we had a transit update in the committee meeting today. There was a lot of stuff in the committee meeting. And basically, it looks like incremental change to the transit route. I would have liked to see some a little bit more profound items. But everything remains very downtown centric, but it does create some crosstown routes and some additional nodes. And of course, the most important thing is my house will gain transit access. Currently, I live in the largest area in the city of Rochester that does not have transit service. So I'm excited to change that dynamic. And truth be told, it means that when I'm really tired, I can just throw my bike on the bus, and then I can get an easy way up the hill when I need to. So other than that, I'll be fine. At the regular meeting, a number of items were continued, but really two things that I want to talk about. One is the HPC ordinance, the Heritage Preservation Ordinance, and we finally basically approved something today, and it's pretty good. It meets the state guidance for ordinances. We don't have any fees set right now. There'll be a discussion for another day. We also have the ability to take up anyone from the public can work with the HBC and do a nomination, which is something that was important to me as well. Most of the things I think that the preservation community were looking at, they got out of this. I think there was, I was one of those folks that compromised on a couple of these points too, but at long last, we have something that's seriously looks like a preservation ordinance. And I'm excited about that. The other thing too is the whole issue of property rights came up, and I actually found some common ground with the Chamber of Commerce today. I said that preservation is something that's been litigated at the U.S. Supreme Court, so I am willing to commit that our ordinance will not do anything that is not permitted by previous Supreme Court decisions. And the response from the Chamber was, well, I guess we can't argue with that. I'm like, well, there we go. You can have a preservation ordinance that's not necessarily a property rights issue, and that's good. Another topic that was discussed pretty heavily is economic viability, and it is an important issue, but the key thing is it's important that we address those things, but it doesn't actually determine whether a building is historic or not, so I like to keep those two issues separate. We've talked about funding sources, we have some ideas, but the TIF and the tax credits are going to remain our best tools, but it'd be great to get some survey work funded from grants or small grants to identify some of these buildings. Key thing is you want to identify these historic buildings before the development is proposed so we can answer these questions and it doesn't get in the way of the development process. Perfect example is, I've talked to the city administrator, and we're going to have an independent group take a look at the what's currently the Holiday Inn building, because that's a potential historic landmark as well. And regardless of where you feel about that, it would be good to know that going into the process as opposed to having a big fight during the process. Lastly, we had I was figuring we were going to have this discussion on the on the Miracle Mile project tonight, but it didn't happen. Somebody whispered in somebody's ear before the meeting that they were just going to continue it, and I don't. It's interesting. They're going to continue it until the first meeting after the election. So it appears to me they. I would imagine that's probably a factor in this, particularly given the amount of campaign contributions that have gone from the development side to a number of council members there. But the neighborhood was there, and they did speak. And the first thing we brought up was an issue was there was a real process issue, in that the city administrator unilaterally decided he would use a procedure that we're not familiar with to expedite this process, which was really maddening from the standpoint that that's the kind of decision that the city council should make, not the city administrator on our behalf. And he didn't even give us the option to make that decision. And it was so vitally important that we get this on the agenda and talk about it tonight, so much so that we had to make our own process. And oh yeah, we're going to continue it for another month. Yeah, it's the false narrative that we tend to get a lot of times. Kutsky Park did an amazing job. We did open up the hearing. Javon and company left, but we did open up the public hearing, and just some really incredible testimony from the neighborhood. And a lot of people who just aren't comfortable speaking in public were coming because, rather than deferring to the people who tend to represent the neighborhood, they're trying to show that it's not just a small number of people that care about this stuff. It's, I've probably talked to more than 100 people in that neighborhood and beyond that it's really important to do this right and engage the street. And just an amazing presentation by Kelly Muller, who just went through all the things that were what this area could possibly be, if we just had a little bit of vision. And also, Jesse Welsh going through the long list of, false statements that were put in some of Javon Bay's correspondences. And his behavior is just not acceptable towards my neighborhood leaders. I will continue to stick my neck out on those people who serve in those volunteer positions for no personal gain, but only for doing what's right by them and their neighborhood, and they've had a fantastic result. Javon Bay accused Jesse and a number of other members of that neighborhood of extortion. So I flatly put that question after her presentation that, are you guys trying to extort money? And of course the answer was no, and I got snapped at by the chair, who said that's, we want to keep this to the merits of the case, and Javon's not here to defend himself. Well, it was a post-public hearing, so if Javon wanted to be there, Javon could be there. And I don't think you can defend the garbage that Javon wrote. There's just no excuse for that. And I don't appreciate the insinuations that these, lifelong volunteers and advocates for their neighborhood are on the take. I find that to be absolutely maddening. It was pretty clear that the neighborhood debunked that there was ever any effort in cooperation between the developer and the neighborhood, which is unfortunate because they should be going through some sort of an incentive or restricted process. It's going to come back to us now on the 21st, and there's so much opportunity in this area, and frankly, they could do a lot more with the land than they're even proposing to doing if they just do it right. And what's especially frustrating is Nate Stencil, who was the developer for a while, wanted to work with the neighborhood, and they could easily resolve these issues. The issues that are out there are so minor, but I assume just out of pure spite for trying to work with the neighborhood, Stencil was fired from the project. And that's really too bad because Nate Stencil is somebody I do have a world of respect for, and I think he could have helped to bring the groups together. But not only that, but at one of the neighborhood meetings, Patrick Sieb offered to bring DMC Resource and the University of Minnesota Design Center together to just address some of these urban design issues, because this it's a nice project, but there's just some urban design principles that fall flat on their face. It's not safe for pedestrians because of that offset intersection, the way they've done it, and it just does not activate that street the way that every project should be activating a street. And it's not like this is going through a cookie cutter approval. This is an amendment to a PUD, which is probably not the right process anyway, but it's maddening that everybody's on the same page here. Everyone wants this project to work. The neighborhood, They want good urban design. They want to think about the future of how they make 16th Avenue into a really outstanding roadway for commercial. And but there's just folks are so blinded by rage that they won't come together and work on this. And that's where I hope the city council holds firm. And because this is something that they're looking for above and beyond and what their approval is, I hope that we can get good urban design out of it. There really doesn't have to be a loser on this. There's lots of folks that are willing to step up and just address these small design issues that are so easy to address. It's so easy to do this stuff, but we just can't do it. So possibly we'll have a big fight on the 21st, or possibly people will come back to earth and make some very simple modifications, perhaps even add some density, but do it in a way that really turns 16th Avenue into what it really could be, which is a spectacular neighborhood, residential, commercial type street, multimodal. So a lot of interesting stuff going on, and hey, you guys are watching this video, so plug myself as well. You might be aware there's an election coming up. Been honored to be endorsed by almost every neighborhood leader in the district, and the Post Bulletin gave me a strong endorsement too, particularly because I don't have the conflicts of interest that are going to prevent me from being involved on the most important issues that my neighborhoods are going to be facing in the next 4 years. Conservation Minnesota Voter Fund has also endorsed me for my, I'm a lifelong environmentalist. I do a lot of passionate work on the environment. And most importantly, when people start taking shots at my neighbors and they're looking for a civic official that's going to stand up for these volunteers, I'm the person that's always going to be willing to do that. So, I thank you for all the support I've already received. I thank everybody for the strong endorsements and all the campaign help, but keep at it. We've got, another 3 weeks, and then then the decision will be made, and then kind of jokingly say I'll either keep doing my job for another 4 years, or I'll have a much higher quality of life doing something else. But I always tell folks I don't necessarily enjoy the position, but I find it to be incredibly rewarding and incredibly important, and that's why I do it. I do it so my kids can get to school safely. I do it so your kids can get to school safely. I do it so that people who don't normally have a voice in the process, because they're not a bunch of well-connected, good old boys downtown, builders, developers, all these people who try and manipulate the process, all those names that you hear in flashing lights, they can do some good things, but the folks in the neighborhood deserve some representation too. The folks that are down on their luck deserve some representation. The folks that just need the bus to work for them, they need some representation too. So I'm going to continue to try and be there for all those folks. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you next time.